Good morning, everyone. We'll call the October 6, 2015 meeting of the Jackson City Council to order. And call on Councilman Randy Wallace for the invocation and pledge. If you would, please rise.
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of leadership you have given to the members of this city council. Help us to recognize the wisdom of others and not rely solely on our own opinions. We ask that you guide us so that the decisions we make will be pleasing to you and make Jackson a better place to live. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, on roll call, Anita, you can show Councilwoman Foote absent. She has some sickness in her family, so if you would do that for me, I think everyone else is present. Item 4 is approval of the minutes of the September 1st, 2015 City Council meeting. Council members received a copy of those minutes. Unless there are any additions or corrections, we'll let those minutes stand as submitted. Item 5 is the invitation for public comment. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to make any comment under any item under new business, if you'll let me know at the time, we'll be happy to call on you and let you come up and address the council. Item 4 is our proclamations. We have 3 this morning. The first one is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Second is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And the third is National Night Out. So I'll come down and get those proclamations underway.
Oh, yeah.
Proclamation, whereas every 4 women were accused of domestic violence during their life, and whereas approximately 15.5 billion children are exposed to domestic violence each year, and whereas domestic violence resulted in 270 murders and non-negligent homicides from 2012 to 2014 in Tennessee, and whereas the abuse of a family member can have long-term damaging effects on the survivor that impacts family, friends, and the community at large. And whereas families are indispensable as a stable society, it should be a place of support to instill responsibility and values in the next generation. And whereas domestic violence is widespread and is devastating to society as a whole, but particularly to women and children. Whereas violence against women and children is a prevalent social ill due to a historical imbalance of power, gender, and age. The problem of domestic violence is not confined to any group or groups of people. It crosses all economic, racial, gender, educational, religious, and societal barriers and is sustained by societal indifference. And whereas the survivors of domestic violence should have help to find the compassion, comfort, and healing they need, and domestic abusers should be held fully accountable for their crimes against persons and against the community. And whereas survivors of domestic violence, their families are encouraged to seek assistance from the Women's Resource and Rape Assistance Program to gain access to supportive services so they can escape the cycle of abuse. And whereas important partnerships have been formed among criminal and juvenile justice agencies, healthcare providers, allied professionals, and victim services to assist victims of domestic violence and their families. Whereas our community has a civic and moral obligation to work to prevent domestic violence, to address its brutal and destructive effects, and to make ending domestic violence a community priority. Now therefore, in recognition of the important work being done by our community to prevent domestic violence, support survivors of domestic violence, and hold perpetrators of such violence accountable for their crimes against the community, we, Jerry Guest, Mayor of the City of Jackson, Tennessee, and Jimmy Harris, Mayor of Madison County, Tennessee, do hereby proclaim October 6, 2015 Domestic Violence Awareness Month and urge all citizens to become aware of this destructive force in our society and become part of efforts to stop violence in families. Carl, we certainly appreciate you, everything that you're doing for day-to-day basis, especially at the center over on Rutland.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And I'm grateful to be here this morning with our three advocates in Jackson Madison County. These are the three women who do the bulk of the work for victims of domestic and sexual violence in Jackson Madison County: Allie Mack, Tonga Simmons, and Deborah Brackens. And I'm going to let them say some words this morning.
Like she said, my name is Allie. I think domestic violence truly is a human issue. It, as the mayor said, it crosses all racial, economic, cultural boundaries and truly affects, I think, every single one of us in this room. What we do at RAP is we try to provide justice, advocacy, restoration, and most importantly, safety to survivors. So I encourage you to encourage any of your friends, any of your loved ones to come to us, even if they just have questions about what we do or think that maybe something that's going on in their lives applies to what we do. Thank you.
Good morning. On behalf of the 2,000 that we serve every year, but every woman and child and man that we serve every single day, this is a great honor, and we just appreciate the mayor and everyone in Madison County being behind us for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Thank you so much.
Okay, if there's anyone here representing the American Cancer Society Breast Cancer Proclamation for October, go on up. Just a second, I'll read this proclamation. The records of this meeting. You'll notice I have on my pink brush as well. Thank you very much. It's a proclamation, whereas Paint the Town Pink is an activity of the American Cancer Society that promotes breast cancer awareness and gives individuals and communities an opportunity to fight back against cancer. And whereas money raised during the Paint the Town Pink of Jackson Madison County helps end breast cancer by funding the American Cancer Society's efforts to find cures and support programs and services for all people facing breast cancer. Whereas the American Cancer Society invests more in breast cancer research than any other cancer type, and have played a role in nearly every major breast cancer research breakthrough in recent history. Now, therefore, we, Jerry Guest, Mayor of the City of Jackson, Tennessee, and Jimmy Harris, Mayor of Madison County, Tennessee, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2015 as American Cancer Society Paint the Town Pink Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and encourage all our citizens to participate in the Making Strides Against Breast Cancer event to be held on October 24th, 2015 at Jackson General's Park. Girls, thank you all for what you did. It's my honor to present this to y'all.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Farrell. I'm a staff partner that works for the American Cancer Society, and on behalf of the staff, as well as Susan Morris, who is our co-chair for the Making Strides event, we just want to thank you for all that you do to help paint the town pink and to support the American Cancer Society as we try to finish the fight. Thank you.
Okay, one of our favorite nights in the year. National Night Out. We have Lieutenant Taylor here to accept this proclamation. He's going to tell you where we're going to be all night and where to get the best food. And that's the important part, council. Okay. This is a proclamation, whereas the National Association of Town Watch is sponsoring a unique nationwide crime, drug, and violence prevention program on October the 6th, 2015, entitled National Night Out. And whereas last year's National Night Out campaign involved citizens, law enforcement agencies, civic groups, businesses, neighborhood organizations, and local officials from over 16,000 communities from all 50 states, U.S. territories, Canadian cities, and military bases worldwide. In all, over 37 million people participated in National Night Out in 2014. Whereas the 31st Annual National Night Out provides a unique opportunity for the City of Jackson to join forces with thousands of other communities across the country in promoting cooperative police community crime prevention efforts. And whereas the City of Jackson plays a vital role in assisting the Jackson Police Department and the Madison County Sheriff's Department with joint crime, drug, and violence prevention efforts in the City of Jackson, and is supporting National Night Out 2015 locally. And whereas it is essential that all citizens of the City of Jackson be aware of the importance of crime prevention programs and the impact that their participation can have on reducing crime, drugs, and violence in the City of Jackson. And whereas police community partnerships, neighborhood safety awareness, and the cooperation are important themes of the National Night Out program. Now therefore, I, Jerry Guest, Mayor of the City of Jackson, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, October the 6th, 2015, as National Night Out, and urge all citizens to join in supporting this worthwhile event. Lieutenant, we appreciate you, all your people, for putting this together. So stand up here and tell us where all we need to be.
I provided a list for all the city council members, plus we got a list over here. One of the ones I personally want to promote is at 512 Roland, Safe Hope Center. We're going to have a big one there, so come out. But they're spread out throughout the city. Just encourage you to get out and just show your support for the citizens, show that we care about them also. Thank you, Mayor, for proclaiming this day.
Before we go to our first readings, I'd be remiss if I did not let the audience know that we are honored to have members of Leadership Jackson, this particular year's class here, doing part of their homework. So good for you all. Stand up and let's see who you are, and let's show them thank you for their effort. Thank you all for being here. Councilman Dodd is asked to make a special presentation. So Councilman, I'll turn it over to you just for a second.
Mr. Tony Black, could you please come up, son? I mean to call you son, but you can please come up for a second. I'd just like to present you with I guess it's strange that Mayor of the city is getting their accommodation, but I'd like to thank you for all your support for our youth in our city, and give you an accommodation from the city and a support letter. So thank you. And also, I'd like to thank our mayor also. The mayor do a lot of things behind the scene. A lot of people don't know for our youth. I'd like to thank him for what he do also.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Now you can share that with all your parks and recreation staff. Okay?
That's not gonna make the news.
Item 1 under first readings, let me present this to the council and ask for your cooperation in pulling that from the agenda today. We have obviously a lot of due diligence to do as far as our tax collection efforts here. We have an existing ordinance, and I think given a little time to do some proper due diligence, we'll have an ordinance which everyone can fully understand, and we can do some catch-up perhaps maybe on where we need to be. So if there's no objection to that, but let me ask our city attorney to come up and maybe just give just a brief overview. I can tell you this before Lewis goes any farther. August 1990, council passed a ordinance for a program of early payment discount for property taxes. That ran through 2003. They were printed here in City Hall. Those discounts were on the actual tax notice itself. Example being, i.e., if your tax bill is a certain amount, if paid before the end of October, come on down, a certain amount less, obviously, less discount if you paid during November. There were no discounts during December. That went well until 2004. We asked the state then to print the property tax bills, and the state has one way of doing things, and it's their way. There was nothing on the tax bill which indicated a discount. That lasted through 2009.
where the city elected to go into contractual agreement with a vendor to print our tax notices. That notice of discount still is not on those tax bills. So it came about, as council remember, just a couple of months ago, we passed, and I think is a good thing, to allow partial payments for property taxes through the end of December. And looking back on that, we found where this was an issue, so I'm asking the council, if no objection, just to we'll delay action on this till we get an ordinance together, we do our proper due diligence and come back to you all with a recommendation. Larry?
Well, I got a call yesterday from the mayor's office asking us what should we do now that we've discovered what was an unintentional mistake. It appears to me to be a small mistake for each person on the aggregate may be, it's still not large, but it's significant. I'm not sure how to address it. There are accounting issues, there are auditing issues, there may be some legal issues, and there are just some, do you really want to go and spend $25 of taxpayer money correcting a $2.50 tax error? With less than 24 hours to analyze the problem, I have more questions than answers right now. But if y'all have some questions that you want to ask me, I'll be glad to answer them. Many of them may be, I don't know, but I'll be glad to answer any questions that I can today.
For the council's benefit, this is, we have obviously a lot of due diligence to do, and it affects the way we collect our taxes. It is involved in the way we do our accounting for auditors. So the due diligence part will be, of course, our attorney doing his basic research, checking in with the state to see where we are, and also the Municipal Technical Advisory Service, which are allies of ours, to see if we have, see if we can determine a route to follow for the future. But this time will allow us to do the due diligence, and we'll begin on that today.
But I do agree, before we start amending that, we ought to understand where we are and what we need to do so that the amendment can be considered in context.
Exactly.
Mayor, I do
Okay.
have a question that's kind of more logistical. Louis, you'll do that research and then report that back to the mayor and then
Right.
ultimately decide whether or not we're gonna
Right.
kind of go down that path.
Exactly, and our solutions may be limited by statute of limitations, or if a taxpayer pays without paying under protest, there may be some limitations there. There may be auditing issues, making payments out of 1 year for another year. So there's just, I don't know what the legal limit on our solutions are.
Those were all my questions. So.
Okay.
Obviously, since 2004, we haven't had any findings in our audit from this.
No, and no one came to pay their taxes and ask, as I understand it, and asked for that rebate that didn't get it, but it's just that the form didn't bring it to their attention.
Mm-hmm.
And so the practice didn't follow to the letter the ordinance. And I think that was an unintentional consequence of trying to do things more efficiently. I would say that in this age of computers and forms, sometimes making micro adjustments on the fly costs more to accommodate than the benefits they achieve. And that's what, a 24-hour look at it says to me.
Okay.
Do we need to make a vote, table it, or what?
No, I'll just go ahead and remove it from the agenda. We'll come back after the due diligence is done. We have a recommendation and get an ordinance in place, which hopefully will be what we want to do in years to come. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Item 2 is consideration of the ordinance to abandon unnamed alley running between North Hayes Avenue and LeConte Street, between Jackson Street and Dupree Street, submitted by James Marshall. Dan?
I know that's kind of hard to see. Basically, this is an alley that's has really not very improved. It's kind of fallen into disrepair over years and really isn't used to access properties along this alley. Mr. Marshall owns the property that would be along Hayes here. His property he owns on both sides of this alley are split by the alley, and he would like to develop this track at some point in the future. And since the alley splits his property, he'd like to abandon it so that he can consolidate his property into one piece of land. So that's the request.
Okay,
Move
before
to
we,
adopt the ordinance.
okay, before we get into a vote, this is ordinance on first reading, so let me open a public hearing for anyone here who wishes to address the council in this matter, either in opposition to or support of. Is there anyone present? If not, we'll close the public hearing, and we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Item 3 is consideration of the ordinance to abandon a portion of Ferguson Drive submitted by WTBJ Partnership.
The surgery center, located at the end of this cul-de-sac, they own the property on both sides, and they were really the only property owners served by this cul-de-sac. It was a short street that, if you went out there, you wouldn't even know it was a cul-de-sac there, because it just basically ran into their parking lot. And so, since they were the only ones served, they're now looking at expanding their facility, and this being a public right-of-way was impeding them from doing that expansion. So it's not going to affect any other property owners. The other properties are served by Channing Way, and Ferguson's going to be open above that to serve the two uses that front on Channing Way. And we're also going to keep the fire hydrant within the right-of-way so that it can be used for fire protection. So again, there's no downside to this, and the Planning Commission has recommended this to you.
Move for approval. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Before we vote, again, this is ordinance on first reading. I'll ask if there's anyone, I'll open a public hearing, ask if there's anyone present to be, want to be heard on this matter. If not, we'll close the public hearing, and we have a motion and a second. Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Stan. Item 8, second readings, we have none. Item 9 on the new business, consideration of board appointments. Keep Jackson Beautiful Commission.
So moved.
Appointment of Joanne Harville to fill the unexpired term of Pat Hamlet. We have a motion, there's a second.
Second.
Second, any discussion from council? Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Also, under the Jackson Municipal Regional Planning Commission, we have the reappointment of Chris Edwards.
So moved.
Motion and second. Discussion. Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
On the tree board, we have the reappointment of David Middlebrook and the reappointment of Kevin Andrews.
So moved.
Second.
A motion, a second. Discussion. Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Item 2 under new business, budget amendments. Ms. Karen?
We have 3 this morning. The first one is for the State Street Maintenance Capital in the amount of $7,500. This amendment is being completed for the purchase of the bush hog equipment needed by the street department. This will be a draw on fund balance.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
The second amendment that you have before you this morning is also in the capital. This is for the Traffic Division Capital, $7,500 for the Police Department. This is being completed for the purchase of a motorcycle to be used by the Jackson Police Department in the amount of $7,500. Funds were received from the insurance recovery for a total JPD 2008 Dodge Charger, and the settlement funds are being used to purchase a motorcycle and to do maintenance painting on some of the older vehicles since the settlement was not enough to replace the vehicle. Insurance recovery money is in the general fund, but the motorcycle is a capital purchase, so we're requesting just a transfer of the funds.
So
No new
moved.
capital.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion from council. Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
The third amendment that you have before you today is the award of the 2015 Burn JAG grant that has been received by the city and the county. The city has received the 2015 Burn JAG grant. It will be equally split between the City of Jackson and Madison County Sheriff's Department in the amount of $55,503. The city's portion will be used to purchase level 3 and 4 LBE with plates, a firearms clearing station, and a dolly and personal protection equipment. Madison County will use theirs for a bailiff and the courtroom security.
Karen, we normally will not have a public hearing on
You
that
had a
particular.
public hearing in July on this.
Oh, okay, so we've already, okay.
You've already had your
okay,
public hearing,
okay,
yes,
thank
sir.
Motion
you.
to approve.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion. Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Thank you.
Final item is consideration of invoices over $10,000.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion. Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
There being no further business, meeting is adjourned.
We caught you off guard.